The world's great novels. This is the story of Michael Henchard, a man of character. He was strong and yet weak, turbulent and yet calm, hard and yet sentimental. And among the farming people of England's Wessex 100 years ago, he lived by his deeds and died by them and was judged for them. The NBC University of the Air brings you the last of a 5-part radio edition of Thomas Hardy's The Mayor of Casterbridge, another in the series of books that live, the world's great novels.
Last week, we saw Michael Henchard staggered by one disaster after another. First of all, he had lost all his money in the grain market, while his rival, Donald Farfrey, became rich. Then a black mark in his past became known to the town, and his reputation was ruined. He lost his high position as mayor, and Farfrey became mayor of Casterbridge in his place. His star spiraled still further downward when the woman he planned to marry, Lucetta Templeton, fell in love with his rival and finally eloped with Farfrey. And the final bitter blow came when he went to work for his hated rival as a common laborer. Long ago, Michael Henchard, in a drunken frenzy, had sold his wife and child. Then he had sworn an oath not to touch another drop for 21 years. Now, the time of the oath had expired, and again he took to strong drink. And as he drank at the Inn of the Three Mariners with his one-time foreman, Jop, Henchard's hatred of Donald Farfrey grew more and more inflamed, and he publicly vowed vengeance. And it was true, he still had an ace in the hole. He had been Lucetta Farfrey's lover long before Donald had known her. He had a bundle of Lucetta's love letters to prove it, and these he held over his rival's head like a club. If the town of Casterbridge came to know of it, it would ruin Lucetta, smash her marriage, and put Donald Farfrey in a difficult position. It was no wonder, then, that Lucetta seemed agitated when she spoke to her husband.
Donald, I heard the servants talking last night.
Well?
They saw Michael Henchard at the Inn of the Three Mariners. He was drinking heavily.
Well, that's his affair, Lucetta. I cannot regulate the lives of my help in their off hours.
No, dear, you don't understand. He threatened to do you harm. He hates you, Donald. He hates you.
What would you have me do, Lucetta?
Donald, can't you discharge him? Perhaps then he would leave Casterbridge.
No, Lucetta. I cannot discharge a man who was once such a good friend to me. How can I forget that when I first came here, Henchard helped me establish a footing? No, as long as I've a day's work to offer, he's welcome to it.
Then, Donald, perhaps we'd better leave Casterbridge.
What? Lucetta, have you gone daft? Why should we leave? Why, we're well off here, and doing better each day, and I'm the mayor.
But there's no telling what Mr. Henchard might do. He might even kill you.
Oh, come now. You misjudge him, Lucetta. We used to be good friends, and I know they're still good in the mon.
Lucetta Farfrey lived in an agony of suspense, day by day waiting for Henchard to reveal the letters and ruin her. Then at last she could stand it no longer. She came to see him one night.
Well, Mrs. Farfrey, good evening. But is it not imprudent to visit an old friend at this hour?
Michael, I had to see you.
Bless you, my dear. What for?
Please don't jest with me now. I must have those letters.
Ah, those letters. I was reading them last night, Lucetta. How affectionate they were. How endearing.
Michael, I can't stand it any longer. I've almost gone mad. I beg of you, in the name of everything we were to each other, give me the letter.
You asked me in the name of everything we were to each other. And in this same name you threw me over for Farfrey.
Have pity on a distressed woman, Michael. My happiness would be secure enough but for your threats. Oh, Michael, don't ruin me. Give me those letters.
I don't know. I don't know why I should.
Because I'm helpless, Michael. And you've not been found wanting to the helpless. And because I was the woman you loved. And whom you still love.
I curse you, Lucetta. I do still love you.
Because you do, you really could not bring yourself to ruin me. Could you, Michael? Could you?
No. No, I could not.
Give me the letters. Let me destroy them now.
They are not here. I have them in a safe place. But I will send them to you tomorrow.
Oh, Michael, I've misjudged you. You are good. And you really will send the letters to me tomorrow?
I may have fallen in low estate in many ways, Lucetta. But the word of Michael Henchard is still good and true.
True to his word, Michael Henchard took the letters from their hiding place. He gave them to his old foreman, Jop, to deliver. And here he made a mistake. For Henchard once had discharged Jop unfairly, and although Henchard had forgotten it, Jop had not. He had thirsted for revenge and bided his time. A casual look at the letters showed Jop how he could humiliate Henchard before the whole town by proving that he had been jilted by Lucetta. And so, instead of delivering them directly to Lucetta, he stopped at a nearby inn called Peter's Finger, a low place with a low clientele.
Well, now, Jop, me boy, that's a real precious love letter, so it is. A fine minx, this Mrs. Farfrey.
Aye, Charles. With her alone and a loving Mr. Henchard, and then throwing him over for Farf. Come, Jop. Read us another letter.
Aye, let's have another
For
letter.
shame! For shame!
Oh, what's the matter,
What,
Mrs.
Mother Cookson? You don't find these here epistles entertaining? These intimate affairs they are twixt Henchard and Mrs. Farfrey. And true besides.
It be humbling thing. Aye, an insult for us as is respectable women, that one of our sex could do it. A shame and a scandal it be. I say it be good foundation for a skimity ride.
What's skimmity? A skimmity ride.
You're right, Mother Cookson. Aye, 'tis as good a ground for a skimmity ride as ever I know.
True, Christopher. The last one in Casterbridge must have been 10 years ago, if a day. It was against the widow Hedges, I recall.
Well, then, a skimmity ride it is against Mrs. Farfrey. And I'll be glad to lead it on.
Thus, certain lower elements in Casterbridge prepared an old English method of public humiliation for a brazen woman. As they poured out of the Inn of Peter's Finger, none of them noticed a stranger coming in. He was a seafaring man by the looks of him, a rather unusual sight in the corn country, and he went straight to the bar and spoke to the landlady.
Ahoy there, Mom.
Good day, sir.
All these lubbers pouring from the inn almost swamped me. What's going on?
Oh, sir. They're cooking up a skimmity ride.
What's that?
Oh, an old foolish thing they do in these parts when a man's wife is, well, not too much his own.
Good thing to see, is it?
Oh, it is funny. Aye, and exciting too, sir.
Then I shall be sure to see it.
Oh, then you're going to be in Casterbridge?
2 or 3 weeks.
Seafaring man, ain't you?
Aye,
Got kith or kin in Casterbridge?
I might have. And then again, they may all be dead.
I know the town well. Who may you be looking for?
A man named Henchard, Mom.
The strangers stayed the night at the Inn of Peter's Finger. Meanwhile, the next morning, Casterbridge became a holiday town, festooned and decorated and busy with preparations. For a great event was to take place, a surprise visit of a royal personage. The council, under Donald Farfrey's urgent summons, met in emergency session to consider how best to receive the royal celebrity. The council was deep in discussion when the door to the council chamber opened.
Now, gentlemen, for the business of...
Good morning, gentlemen.
Michael Henchard. What are you doing here?
Well, I thought I'd like to join you in this reception of our illustrious visitor.
I hardly see that it would be proper, Michael.
And why not Mr. Farfrey? Why not Mr. Mayor?
The consul are the consul, and the only body with authority to meet royalty in an official way. And you are not a member of the consul.
Look here, Farfrey. I was mayor of this town long before you came here, and I'm going to greet His Highness with the rest of you. You hear, Farfrey?
Look here, Henchard. You've been drinking. You don't know what you're saying.
I know what I am saying, you young jackanapes. You've done me in enough without humiliating me now. I said I'm going to meet His Highness, and I'm not going to be sat on by you, Farfrey, or the rest of this paltry crew.
Henchard, I ask you to leave this council chamber.
And I'll not leave, you hear? I'll not leave.
Then I regret to say we'll have to put you out forcefully. Bailiff?
Aye, Mayor.
Show Mr. Henchard to the door and see that he does not come in again.
Aye, Mr. Farfrey. Come along, Henchard.
You'll not get away with this, Farfrey. Mark me. You've done your last blow to me. I'll see you repaid for this. I'll see you repaid for this.
The reception took place, and Henchard saw it with the rest of the unprivileged onlookers. Then, in the early evening, as Donald Farfrey was preparing to go to Budmouth on a business trip, he received a message saying that someone wanted to see him at the North Granary. Since this barn was on the road to Budmouth, Farfrey decided that he would make the stop. Accordingly, he entered the semi-gloom of the big barn to find Henchard awaiting him in the high loft, to which he quickly climbed.
Now then, Henchard, what are you doing up here?
You and me are going to square accounts, Farfrey.
What do you mean by that?
You should have thought twice before making me eat humble pie before the council. I've stood your rivalry, which ruined me, and your stealing of Lucetta, which left me alone. But you're disgracing me and making me a laughingstock. I will not stand.
But you had no business at the council meeting.
As much as any among you. I was mayor for many years. The gall of a stripling like you, telling me what I might or might not do.
'Twas my duty as chief magistrate to stop you. But I'm not here to argue.
No? Well, I am.
In what way?
You see this loft, Farfrey? It's 4 square, and about the size of a wrestling ring. There be the open door, and it be 40 feet down to the barn floor. One of us two is going to throw the other out that door. The master, the better man, stays inside.
Henchard, you're daft.
Aye, daft to hear your bones crack when I toss you through that door. Put up your hands, Farfrey.
The two men fought silently like animals. Farfrey was faster and more supple, but Henchard had the strength of a bull made twofold by his rage. They rocked and writhed like trees in a gale, first one having the advantage, then the other. Then, finally, Henchard slammed Farfrey to the floor so that his head hung over space through the open door.
Now, Farfrey, I've got you. One little push, and down you go.
Aye, here's the advantage.
This is the end of what you did to me this morning. I have your life in my hands.
Then take it. Take it, Henchard. You've wished to long enough.
No, Donald. No. Be not true. Once I loved you as my own son. No man ever loved another as I loved thee.
Enough of words. Throw me down and be cursed to you.
No, Donald, I cannot. I came here to kill you. I thought I could, but now I cannot. Go. Have me arrested. Do what you will. I care nothing for what comes of me now.
Henchard let Farfrey up, and in shame and remorse flung himself on some grain sacks in a corner. Farfrey regarded him in silence, then climbed down the ladder and left for Budmouth. And there Henchard stayed till darkness came, like an animal afraid to face the light. Meanwhile, at Donald Farfrey's home, his wife Lucetta was alone, and Elizabeth Jane, Henchard's stepdaughter, had come over to keep her company. As they sat there sewing, they suddenly heard a disturbance on the street outside.
Elizabeth Jane, listen. What is it? I don't know, Mrs. Farfrey. It seems to be coming from up Corn Street. What an awful din. Wait, I will open the window.
Elizabeth Jane, what is it?
It's a skimmity ride. They use it to publicly disgrace an unfaithful woman.
What? Elizabeth Jane, are they coming to this house?
Yes. Yes, they've stopped in front of it. Oh, Mrs. Farfrey, don't look out of the window.
I must. Elizabeth, they mean me. See that effigy riding on that donkey? It's me.
Mrs. Farfrey, why doesn't somebody stop this cruel affair?
Why doesn't somebody stop it?
Mrs. Farfrey, let me shut the window, please. Don't look.
No, they mean me. That effigy riding there is me, even my green parasol. They found out I know about Mr. Henchard and me, and now they're blackening my name.
Farfrey, in the name of heaven.
Mother mustn't say it. Mother mustn't say it. Elizabeth Jane, if we see them, we're both ruined. Will we? Oh, Mrs. Farfrey! Mrs. Farfrey!
Lucetta Farfrey fell heavily to the floor in a dead faint. And as she fell away from the window, the din stopped like the rustle of a spent wind, and the crowd dispersed. It was apparent now that she had suffered a serious stroke, and Elizabeth ran out in Corn Street to fetch the doctor. It was then that she met her stepfather, Michael Henchard, coming back from the barn. She told him what happened, and Henchard raced towards Farfrey's stable to pick up a horse and summon Farfrey back to his home. Finally, Henchard caught up to the young Scot almost on the outskirts of Budmouth.
Donald! Donald, wait!
Oh, so it's you, Henchard. What do you want to know?
You've got to return to Casterbridge at once, Donald. There's something wrong at your house.
Aye, I can believe that. What you want is a chance for another set to in some dark wood.
Farfrey, listen, I tell you the truth. Your wife, she's ill. She needs you.
Indeed. I don't believe you.
But, man, for the love of heaven, you've got to believe me. I know 'tis true. I have treated you badly. But now I come on your account, and your wife's. She needs you.
I have business in Budmouth, Mr. Henchard. Good night.
Henchard returned to report his failure. Meanwhile, Lucetta Farfrey sank lower and lower, calling vainly for her husband. Another man was dispatched and brought Farfrey home post-haste, the young Scot cursing himself for not believing Henchard. And then, early the next morning, Michael Henchard came to the Farfrey home to see how Lucetta was faring. As he approached the door, he saw a servant come out and begin to untie the piece of cloth that muffled the door knocker.
I beg your pardon, Mum.
Oh, it's you, Mr. Henchard.
Aye. But why are you taking off that cloth from the knocker? Someone may come and knock for entrance and thus disturb Mrs. Farfrey.
No, Mr. Henchard. They may knock as loud as they will, but Mrs. Farfrey will never hear any more.
With dragging footsteps, Michael Henchard went back to his cottage. There was a cold, empty void within him. Lucetta Farfrey had meant much to him. She had come closer to his heart than any other woman. Now he was alone except for Elizabeth Jane, and even she was not of his own blood. An hour later, as Henchard sat before the fire, there was a knock at his door.
Come in.
Good morning. Is it Mr. Henchard I'm talking to?
Aye. My name be Henchard.
Ah. Then may I have a few words with you?
Come in, come in.
You may remember me.
No, I cannot recall as I do.
Well, no wonder. It was a long time ago. My name is Newson.
Newson? Richard Newson?
Aye. You know me now, eh?
I remember now. You are the sailor to whom I sold my wife Susan and Elizabeth Jane.
Aye.
But they said you were dead. Lost at sea.
They thought I were, but I've come back, as you see. Tell me, how is Susan?
Susan? She be dead.
I feared it, I feared it. And my daughter, Elizabeth Jane, where is she?
She be dead too.
Poor little thing. Poor little thing. Then the journey here has been for nothing. I might as well go back from whence I came.
You mean you are not staying here in Casterbridge any longer?
No. No, what would be the use of it? Well, thank you, Mr. Henchard. I'll not trouble you any further.
When Newson had gone, Henchard sat there amazed at what he had done. Elizabeth Jane, although not his real daughter, was all he had left in the world, and he had spoken mad lies to keep her near him. Someday, Newson would find the truth and return to Casterbridge. As the weeks went by, Henchard became thin and gaunt. He took to staring up the Budmouth Road, expecting any moment to see the figure of a merchant sailor coming down. His health failed, and his once powerful strength began to ebb from him. And then, one day, his door opened.
Elizabeth Jane.
Aye, Father.
Come in, Elizabeth. What brings you here?
Father, I want to stay here with you.
With me?
If you want me. If you need me.
If I need. Oh, Elizabeth, do not mock me.
Father.
I have been so lonesome. But my dear, I have so little to offer.
Oh, Father, I don't mind your being poor. I'll live with you and take care of you and love you like I used to do.
But listen, Jane. What can I say? I thought he in heaven above had forsaken me. Yet I seem to be in somebody's hand after all.
For a time, Michael Henchard lived in some semblance of happiness. He was like a man lifted up. He shaved every day, put on clean linen, and combed his hair. And the people of Casterbridge even began to look upon him with some of their old respect. But then, the evil shadow that had haunted him clouded his star again. On a visit to the neighboring town of Budmouth, he passed by the inn and saw inside a man in the uniform of a merchant captain. It was Richard Newson, and Henchard knew the game was up. Newson had discovered the fraud and was coming back to claim Elizabeth Jane. From that time on, Michael Henchard was dead inside. He hurried back to Casterbridge and sought out his stepdaughter.
I am going to leave Casterbridge, Elizabeth Jane.
Leave Casterbridge? And leave me?
There is nothing left for me here. I would rather get out into the country and follow my own ways.
But, Father...
It is no use, my dear. My mind's made up.
I'm sorry you decided on this. For then, Father, you will not be here for the wedding.
Wedding? What wedding?
Mr. Farfrae has asked me to marry him. And I have said yes.
I see.
Father, I know how much you blame him for all that's happened to you. But I ask you now, I beg of you now, will you give us your blessing?
Elizabeth Jane. It was meant by some higher power that Donald Farfrae should take everything I had. I am only a man and a fool to fight destiny. Aye, daughter, I'll give you a blessing. Marry him and be happy.
Father. Father.
Goodbye, Elizabeth Jane. Goodbye, my dear. And God bless you.
And so it was that Michael Henchard walked out of the town of Casterbridge carrying the tools of a hay trusser, just as he had come into it many years ago. Down the same dusty road he walked, with a heavy weight on his heart, and with half-muttered words on his lips.
Everywhere folks be dying afore their time, though wanted by their loved ones. While I, Michael Henchard, who was once mayor of Casterbridge, I, who am an outcast, wanted by none, despised by all, live on, against your will.
They found him, later, dead upon the road, and buried him at its side. And inscribed upon the stone were the words of the last will and testament written by Michael Henchard as he was dying. And there, standing on the Wessex earth, which Michael Henchard had loved so well, Elizabeth Jane, with her husband at her side, read the inscription.
This be my last testament and will, that none be made to grieve on account of me, that I be not buried in consecrated ground, that no sexton be asked to toll the bell, that nobody is asked to see my dead
body, that no mourners walk behind me at my funeral, that no flowers be planted on my grave, and that no man remember me. To this I put my name, Michael Henchard.
With this concluding chapter of The Mayor of Casterbridge, we come to an end of our second season of the world's great novels, an NBC University of the Year feature. We leave the air for the summer with the hope that you've enjoyed these dramatizations and that you'll again be with us when our literary series is resumed in the fall. In the meantime, we invite you to listen during the summer to the program which will occupy this half hour over many of these same stations. Based on material from the files of the State Department, it will be entitled Tales of the Foreign Service, and will bring you true stories of the men who serve our nation abroad. The Mayor of Casterbridge was adapted for radio by Max Ehrlich. Members of the cast included Boris Aplon as Henchard, Geraldine Kay as Elizabeth Jane, Muriel Bremner as Lucetta, William Everett as Farfrae, and Donald Gallagher as the narrator. Others were Hilda Graham, Hope Summers, Wilms Herbert, Kurt Kupfer, Cliff Norton, and Fred Sullivan. The music was composed by Emil Soderstrom and the orchestra conducted by Joseph Galicchio. The entire production was under the direction of Homer Heck. This program came to you from Chicago. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.